Okay, what's going on YouTube? As per request, someone would like to look at the technicals here on Soundhound, SOUN, listed here on the NASDAQ. We looked at this company a couple of times so far, really, in the last month or so. However, in about the last week since we looked at it, it seems to me, in my opinion, that we kind of have a bullish pattern forming up here. Quick review here, 209 up 4.5% on the day, post-market showing a pullback of a few cents here down to 205. Just a quick review of the numbers here. Market cap 84 million. EPS is looking relatively decent. Again, annually, slowly growing. And if we look quarterly, you can see a couple of decent quarters here back to back on the revenue side, even though, of course, the company is spending more than they're making. Brought in about 30 million again, so they're trading roughly 3 times annual revenue right now. Isn't the lowest we've seen, isn't the highest we've seen, right? But we're here, we're looking at the technicals. Now, I wanted to show you guys something. First of all, as we see here, this is the daily chart, and you can see towards the tail end of the day, they brought it down to about $2, and then they kind of bounced it around in between these fibs here, 204 to 207, before finally breaking out at 352, just a couple of minutes before the close there. If we stretch out even on a 5-day chart, you can see, again, coming down to these lows, back up to the fib here, 207, down to 203. Right, so everywhere you look, it's just kind of bouncing around these fibs right here and staying in this tight range. Here's a 1-month chart again, down to the 2s as we saw, and now we're heading back upward towards this fib of 212. And this is interesting, right, because you can say that we have our flag pattern forming here. This is our pole, this is our flag. Usually with a bull flag, the pole goes up and you may have, usually it's kind of in like a descending channel to take the next leg higher. However, in my opinion, this does seem bullish here in my eyes, right, because we have these lows here, and then we're kind of making higher lows here as we're slowly climbing up in this channel, and also making higher highs here as well, 213, 217, right? So we're slowly climbing and potentially about to break out. Now, of course, sometimes we see patterns that we want to see. We may see something that's not really there. And of course, the stock can always break down and drop down to $1.50. However, in my opinion, again, there's a 1-month chart. And look at this. I wanted to show you guys this. You know, they brought it low here to about 242 and then back up and closed it here at about 252. And it's funny because then they ran it up going into earnings, right, on anticipation of these numbers. Then the numbers come out and you're sitting here and you're saying, oh, wow, okay, they beat earnings. It's a great quarter, right? Stock should go up. No, instead they brought it down. They brought it all the way down to $1.50. However, now it immediately spikes back up because they know that's too low, and now it's in this upward ascending channel, potentially about to break out. So that's why earnings are a funny thing, and that's why it's very, very speculative to actually do an earnings play, because I'm sure you've seen companies with situations like this. Sometimes they come out, they post a good quarter, and they pop a few percentage points. And you say, okay, that makes sense. Then they come out with earnings, and all of a sudden they're flat, or they begin to sell off, and you're wondering, okay, what the heck's going on? Well, what the heck's going on is the company's probably fairly valued here at about 240, 250. Right? They brought it up to north of 3 going into earnings. So unless this company annihilated these estimates, they were probably going to go down no matter what. Right? That's that more grounded, realistic thinking. So sometimes you have to take a step back and just use simple logic and common sense. It's not always about, oh, it's an EV stock, so it's definitely going to go higher after earnings. Or, oh, they beat earnings, so I'm going to load the boat because now at 330 it's going to 530. Right? So sometimes you have to let the market digest what has actually just been reported. And of course, again, because they pumped it up, they decided to bring it back down. However, in my opinion, $1.57 here at these lows was too low, and again, they felt the same way. So now we spike it back up, and now we're in our upward channel. So that's why, in my opinion, we do actually have the potential to break back up to this 2.5 level here, about 252, 253. And that's funny too, because before I switch over to stock charts, I just want to pull out, again, this is our full chart here, and just to go back to my original analysis, we're forming a symmetrical triangle, which is technically still uncertain. It is not bullish or bearish, and it could break up or it could break down, but I did say the apex looks like it's coming right around these earnings here of May 15th. So that's why we may want to see a bullish pattern here in the short term and potentially make a quick, 10, 15, 20% trade. However, of course, this can always pull back down and retest this bottom trend line, 158, 160 before climbing back up and just really sausaging and staying flat here going into this earnings report. But if we switch over here to stock charts, we're looking at the daily now, and instead of the Bollinger Band, I actually plugged in the 20-day moving average as well. So here we're looking at the 50-day, the 200-day, and the 20-day, and you can see the 20-day moving average here of 221 is basically just about where the resistance is coming for this upward pattern, right? So that's why we could pop up open tomorrow and hit, 221, 225, and then immediately reject and pull back down. However, again, in my opinion, the way these two moving averages are kind of diverging onto each other here, we have our 200-day at 264 and our 50-day at 260. So that's why we were looking at that 252, 253 level, which again is the support here of this candle here, 252, and of course, now it's 249 was the high of this candle, but basically around that 2.5 level. And that's why, in my opinion, I think we do break and potentially start to climb and hit that 2.5, 260 level. As you can see, the MACD technically just crossed here to the upside on the daily. So that's why this short little rally here could continue for Soundhound here, SOUN. The RSI on the daily was about 45, the same as we're seeing here on the weekly. My apologies. But again, you can see here, look at the 20-day moving average here on the weekly. That is now defined. We don't have our 50 or our 100-day apparently. But our 20-day moving average, 205, and you can see here, right? This was after earnings. We had the big sell-off, and again, they brought it down here to, what is it, $1.70. And then continued to $1.57, but that's where the bottom was. And you can see by the end of the week, it closed, again, see the C? Closed at 210. And the 20-day moving average, again, 205. Now we move here, and of course, it dipped below $2 here this week to $1.92. However, look at the close here, sitting here at 209. So it seems to be slowly rising and staying rather bullish and steady, closing above this 20-day moving average even here on the weekly. That is why, again, in my opinion, anything can happen. I don't claim to be a technical analysis expert. However, based on what I'm seeing here, it does look like it will have the potential to break upward before it does pull back downward. Because again, it was a decent earnings quarter, so you would think the stock would go higher. They decided to pull it back after pumping it up here with their green candles, and now it is rebounding, coming off of these lows and climbing back to where it was and where it should be based off of being a growing company. So kind of overall a little bit of a mixed bag still with Soundhound, because I still say it is going to rely on these earnings here May 15th. Again, if I'm going on record here saying I'm like 80-90% confident it's in a bullish trend and the stock does pull back to like $1.70, again, my apologies. I do not claim to be perfect. We all make mistakes, but hey, I know this is a popular company and you guys were interested. So again, as per request, dove into it. We looked at the chart a little bit, but that's really the main pattern I'm seeing here is getting back to this, at least this 240, 250 level, and potentially breaking above that 20-day moving average there on the daily here, 221, and then again it may hit a level here of this 242 here, the low of this candle, and then it may slightly pull back and potentially even bounce off that 221 before reclaiming the next moving averages going into the 250s and the 260s, right? Because as these days pass, these moving averages are going to change. So, a lot of technicals going on here. Also, we can switch over to the pivot points very quickly if you'd like. And as you see here, you can see on the daily, the pivot point support level here, $1.55.7, and you see it came down to $1.57. Technically didn't even touch that support level, but that's where it bounced up and began to slowly climb. And again, back up to this 326. That was a little high. That's why, again, it closed right there as they were posting the earnings. But again, a little bit overzealous, so they brought it back down. And the weekly obviously isn't really telling us anything with the pivot points. But overall, I'm sure you guys got the gist of everything I was saying. I do still like the story of this company. and we have to keep an eye on the numbers. We have to stay sharp on the technicals, especially if you're a day trader getting in and out of this stock. You have to stay sharp. You have to stay very, very disciplined with a situation like this. Again, we're dealing with only an $80 million market cap. You know, these babies can pop and drop on a moment's notice, 10, 20, even 30%. I've seen it happen. So just stay sharp, stay disciplined. If you have anything to add, if I missed any technicals, if you disagree with the analysis and you think it looks like trash, let us know down in the comments section below. I always keep an open mind. And, like everyone on YouTube says, like the video, give it a thumbs up, helps out the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the content. Moving forward, I wish everyone success. Hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Want to thank you guys for stopping by. And we will come back to this company around those earnings, back around in May. All right, I give you my word. So thanks for stopping by. Have a good day, guys.